Good Friday morning, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, voice you know with the news you trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution. I'm Dusty Sonnenberg. Well, cloudy skies, 38 degrees on the barn thermometer right now. The temperature has been steadily falling since yesterday, but it is expected to warm up, pushing near 50 degrees today, and rain as we get towards the supper hour. These up and down temperatures can cause a lot of respiratory stress on the livestock. Well, let's check in now with Morgan Anderson as she has an update from the USDA.
This news coming in today from the USDA. Ohio farmers encouraged to complete the Census of Horticulture. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's National Agricultural Statistics Service, or NASS, will conduct the 2024 Census of Horticultural Specialties this winter to provide a comprehensive picture of the U.S. horticulture industry. Survey codes will be mailed this month to more than 40,000 horticulture producers to respond online. Collected just once every 5 years, the Census of Horticultural Specialties is the only source of detailed production and sales data for U.S. floriculture, nursery, and specialty crop industries, including greenhouse food crops. Quote, horticulture is a very important part of the U.S. agriculture and our economy, end quote, said Lance Honig, NASS Agricultural Statistics Board's chair. Quote, responding to this census is the best way for growers to help associations, businesses, and policymakers advocate for their industry and influence program decisions in technology development over the next 5 years, end quote. The 2024 Census of Horticultural Specialties results will expand the 2022 Census of Agriculture data with information on horticultural crop production, value of products, square footage used for growing crops, production expenses, and more. Producers who receive the 2024 Census of Horticultural Specialties are required to respond by federal law, as it is a part of the Census of Agriculture program. The same federal law that requires producers to respond also requires NASS to keep all individual information confidential. Growers are asked to use their unique survey code to complete the horticulture census online via NASS's secure website. The online questionnaire is user-friendly, accessible on most electronic devices, and saves producers time by calculating totals and automatically skipping questions that don't apply to their operations. The deadline for response is February 14th of 2025. Results will be available on December 16th of 2025 in the QuickStats database at quickstats.nass.usda.gov. For more information about the 2024 Census of Horticultural Specialties, visit nass.usda.gov/go/hort. For the Ohio AgNet, I'm Morgan Anderson.
Thanks, Morgan. Let's check in now on your Friday weather forecast brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com.
It's going to be a damp finish to the week and finish to the weekend. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio Ag weather update. I don't have any major changes, but this has been well advertised. We've been talking moisture for a nice little bit. Today it starts to spill into west and southwestern parts of Ohio, especially midday and afternoon. We'll continue to see scattered rain showers working through the rest of the state overnight tonight into tomorrow. There might be a slight break in the action for tomorrow at some point through midday and early afternoon. Another round of moisture coming back overnight tomorrow night and going through Sunday. All in, all done from today through Sunday night. I'm looking at a 1/4 to 1 inch of rain across the Buckeye State, and if things work out just right, in the south and southeastern parts of the state, we could be closer to 1.5 inches. I'm not convinced that we see that kind of heavy rain down there, but the chances are out there. So we'll kind of watch that as we go through the weekend. Next week, have a big shift in our temperature profile. Monday still is mild. I don't think we see rain through Monday, but we don't see much sunshine either. Rain comes back Tuesday, and then we have cold air racing in late Tuesday night into Wednesday. So rain may end as some wet snowflake activity overnight New Year's Eve. But then we're much colder for New Year's Day on through the rest of next week. Maybe not quite as cold as a couple weeks back, but definitely colder as this air mass is Arctic in nature. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more after this.
Since 1926, Nationwide has been rooted in agriculture. Founded as the Farm Bureau Mutual Automobile Insurance Company with a mission to protect farmers and their communities, we honor our legacy by offering solutions that evolve with the complex needs of today's farms. As the leading insurer of America's farms and trusted by 8 farm bureaus for 100 years and counting, Nationwide is on your side. Number 1 insurer based on 2023 direct written premium per AM Best. Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton. And I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
I'm joined today by Leah Curtis. She's the Associate General Counsel with Ohio Farm Bureau. Leah, not breaking news, but relatively recent news, big news, the Corporate Transparency Act, everybody that was concerned having to rush to get filed for that by the end of the calendar year, that's on hold.
Yeah, so a judge in Texas, through a lawsuit, filed an injunction that keeps the Corporate Transparency Act from essentially being enforced, having any of its deadlines or any of its regulations enforced, while that injunction is in place. Now, the government has appealed that, so, it will be going through the rest of the litigation there, and of course, we will update as any changes may happen. But as for now, that January deadline is on hold. It will not be enforced. And if someone has not filed yet, certainly they should talk with their own legal advisors to determine how they want to move forward. But that deadline will not be enforced in January.
Any concerns for folks that have filed already? Anything they need to do or be aware of at this point?
So at this point, nothing for those who have already filed to do. If the injunction would end up being lifted, you're already covered. And the court did not make any direction at this time as to that information that's already been reported. I imagine as the litigation progresses, if they would ultimately determine that the CTA is unconstitutional, the judge will likely make some sort of directive as to any information that's already been collected at that point.
Very good. Well, definitely something folks want to pay attention to, and maybe for some folks they can at least put a check mark beside or a pause beside that they don't need to worry before the end of the year. Well, other things going on, obviously big in the state, we talk about quite frequently, CAUV reform, current ag use valuation. Where do we stand right now in the state of Ohio with that?
So as many people have seen, their CAV values have increased significantly, and unfortunately we have seen that in the most recent reappraisals. What we have been doing at the legislature is trying to make sure that people at the legislature are aware of this issue, particularly the volatility that happens in the CAV formula. The data that comes into the formula is accurate. It comes directly from the National Ag Statistics Service, but that formula is creating a lot of volatility. So we have brought that up. We've brought up those concerns to the legislature. We were invited to testify to the Property Tax Review and Reform Committee, and we're kind of awaiting their report at this point. They intend to make a number of recommendations as to property taxes in general. They may also have some specific ones for CAV, and so we'll be moving forward with that once we see that report.
Very good. Well, obviously one that's very important to all of Ohio and rural agriculture, and one that it's nice to know our legislators seem to get it and understand why it's so important. Well, another topic that I guess obviously is important when it affects you, but even if it doesn't affect you, one that we should keep in front of us, eminent domain and reforms in that. What can you tell me about that?
So we've been working to try to get some reforms to eminent domain, but also working through the courtroom as well to make sure that our eminent domain laws that we have are being enforced and carried out appropriately. Eminent domain is a real big impact on somebody's operation, and it's not just that you're losing land; it's that you're losing land that maybe has been a part of your family for generations. So we want to make sure that when that land is taken, it's taken for a true public purpose, that people are adequately compensated, and that we're not taking more land than we need for that public purpose. So we'll be continuing to work on making some tweaks and changes to the eminent domain law. But again, as I said, there's also a lot of lawsuits that happen about eminent domain, and so we've worked through several of those and had some important clarifications in the law. Things like making sure that when you have an easement being taken, the terms of that easement are being reviewed by a court to make sure they are necessary. That's a big one when we see so much eminent domain coming from easements for certain types of utilities or pipelines.
Very good. Definitely something that concerns a lot of folks. Well, finally, TMDL, total maximum daily load. We're talking water quality issues. We're talking Lake Erie and a lawsuit that's going on. What's the current update there?
So at this time, there has been a lawsuit. If anyone's not aware, there's a lawsuit filed over TMDL that was created for the Maumee River watershed to address Lake Erie, and a group of people, including Lucas County, have filed to say that TMDL is inadequate. Ohio Farm Bureau, along with about 10 other agricultural organizations, including American Farm Bureau and the National Pork Producers, as well as our other Ohio commodity groups, did file an intervention into that lawsuit so that we can make sure that we are also there at the table telling the story of what agriculture is doing, and making sure that the laws are going to be carried out appropriately with that TMDL. That TMDL was created by scientists right here at Ohio EPA, and it does speak a lot to all of the good work that farmers are doing, and we want to make sure that the court is also hearing that. So as always, court litigation moves kind of slow, so nothing big to update on that at this point, but of course we will be updating as anything major changes in that litigation.
May seem counterintuitive to folks at times to actually insert yourself into a lawsuit that you're not already tied up in, but in this case, obviously, to have a seat at the table is important. Now, a quick review. This is actually with the federal EPA, right? And in a sense, the Ohio EPA is sort of in the middle of all this as well.
Yeah, so the lawsuit is actually filed against the U.S. EPA and their action of approving the TMDL, which was written by Ohio EPA. So Ohio EPA has also motioned to intervene along with a few other groups. So, we will be waiting to see what the court does in relation to all those motions and then how things move forward here in the next couple months.
Could be some significant impacts depending on how all that plays out. Well, again, my guest today is Leah Curtis. She is Associate General Counsel for Ohio Farm Bureau. Leah, thanks so much for all the updates and all that you do.
Yep, thank you.
Stay tuned. We'll be back to take a look at your markets after this.
So many things that can have an impact on agriculture are out of the farmer's control. Yet when the weather doesn't cooperate, markets go lower, or equipment breaks down, the farmer blames themselves. Hi, I am Nathan Brown, a Highland County farmer and a member of the Ohio Farm Bureau Board of Trustees. If you or someone you know is struggling with stress on the farm, text 4HOPE to 741-741 or go visit gotyourbackohio.org, a message from the Ohio Farm Bureau Federation.
It's time now for your morning Louis Dreyfus grain analysis, brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff. Let's check in with Ryan Martin.
We had a nice post-holiday bounce in the marketplace yesterday. Now we see how are we going to define this week as we close things out today. At the end of the day yesterday, we ended up with the wheat market, corn market, and bean markets all higher. Double-digit gains for a large chunk of the day in the bean complex. No significant reason as to why, but I guess at this point, I don't care. I'm just glad that we saw a little bit of a bounce there. Now, as we move into the Friday, again, limited volume is going to make for some wild swings. Corn up 5 to 6 yesterday. Again, beans we mentioned double digits higher. Wheat was up anywhere from 5 to 8 cents overall. Moving into the Friday headlines, weekly export sales out a day late. I don't think we'll see a whole lot in this report, but we are seeing a little bit of world marketplace jockeying for position ahead of what could be a fairly significant South American crop. And also remember, after the turn of the new year, we are going to be moving into a very short period of time before we get that final crop report out of USDA. The big story, though, is still low volume. I don't think there's good participants here for the finish of this week. Probably not the start of next week either. The headlines are going to be looked at very close, but geopolitical risk seems to be on the sideline a bit. As I look toward outside markets and see here, crude oil did nothing yesterday, finishing basically flat. Gas and diesel the same way. Dow, NASDAQ, column flat. They were down fractionally, so not a big headline day. I guess if that leads to a bounce in beans again, I'll say, hey, let's keep all those headlines relatively minor. Not much else to talk about. The weather looks pretty decent here as well, U.S. and worldwide. We are going to get Mother Nature to make us feel much like winter again next week. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's take a look at how the markets closed yesterday, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Well, March corn closed up 5 1/4 cents, and May corn was up 5 1/2. March soybeans closed up 16 cents, while May soybeans were up 17 1/2 cents, and March Kansas City wheat closed up 7 3/4, while March Chicago wheat was up 6 1/4, and March Minneapolis wheat closed up a nickel. Taking a look now at your overnight trade, March corn is down 1/4 penny at $4.53 1/2 cents. The December 25 new crop corn is up 1/4 penny at $4.42. January soybeans are trading down 1/4 penny at $9.87 3/4 cents, with November new crop 25 beans down 1/2 penny at $10.09. Wheat for March is trading up a half a penny at $4.41 1/2 cents. The July 25 new crop up a quarter penny at $5.59 3/4 cents. On the livestock side at the close, December live cattle were up $1.97 1/2 at $192.77 1/2. February lean hogs closed the day down 17 1/2 cents at $84.20. And Class 3 milk for January closed up a penny at $19.63. This is the Ohio AgNet.